Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be listening from. My spoon shines and my spoon flowers. If you're here, that means that you have met me in my favorite little corner of the internet. I'm Sunny D, RN, BSN. 20-year crony who's pretty much seen it all. Grab your broth, your Gatorade, whatever your spoons will allow. And baby, welcome to Spoon Space. My beautiful spoon shines and spoon flowers. How are we doing? I hope the week has been absolutely amazing for you. And I hope that we've caught up on the last few episodes. If not, please check those out. I think they're fabulous, but I'm a little biased. Today's episode is going to be called Protect Your Pour, because you can only give from your overflow, not from your last spoon. And part of that is knowing when not to spill every single detail of your illness, because explaining can cost, honestly, just as much energy as actually living through it. I hope y'all don't talk about me too bad, because I'm definitely about to talk about Costa Rica again. But y'all, that trip really sealed it for me in so many ways. And one of those ways is when I had realized that I had been giving from my last set of spoons instead of just the overflow. Now, deep down, I do think that I knew this before, but that trip really kind of made me face it head on. And at first, holding on to my spoons felt wrong, like selfish. It felt like I wasn't being the people pleaser that I had honestly been my whole life. And let me tell you, when you've been one way forever, doing the opposite feels extremely uncomfortable. But once I pushed through all of that guilt, baby, physically and emotionally, it felt so freeing. It was like I wasn't just talking about my boundaries, but I was actually doing the work and living them. And when I started protecting more than just a couple of spoons for myself, or maybe even just one sometimes, and said, these spoons are mine. You can only get the extra that overflows. It was like I finally took some control back. It wasn't just me saying that Crohn's doesn't have me. I was proving it with how I also lived. And we all know, we're all living now. Life can be hard. But you can always do something that I love called protecting your peace. And as I've gotten older and more spiritual, I've really realized something, that not everybody feels energy the same way. Some people can walk through their entire life and never pick up on vibes around them. But me, absolutely not. When I walk into a room or have a conversation, I can immediately feel if that person or that conversation or that environment drained me. And one of the biggest signs that something is stealing your spoons is honestly when you feel relief ignoring that text or that letter or that call that you let go to voicemail. If you put your phone on Do Not Disturb and you instantly feel lighter, baby, that's your body telling you, baby, that was not urgent. That was not even emergent. And it definitely wasn't important enough to waste a spoon. I've also learned that I don't have to tell people everything, because sometimes explaining, sometimes coddling can cost just as many spoons as the actual illness. And I don't have the time or the spoon debit to afford that. It's like when I'll tell somebody I have Crohn's and they immediately go, "Oh my gosh, no, I'm so sorry." And I'm immediately like, "Girl, no, it's fine. I've been doing this for a while." And I don't really say that to try to be dismissive. I really say it because I can't spend my last spoon making you feel better about my illness, because, baby, that's just not my job. My Crohn's journey is not everybody else's Crohn's journey. And what I go through isn't necessarily the universal experience. So protecting my peace looks like share when I want, pull back when I need, and never let somebody else's emotions about my illness drain me more than the actual illness itself. When you're navigating this, it can be tiring to be on each extreme. You don't want to necessarily map out every single spoon, because that takes spoons, but you also don't really want to wing it, because when something comes up, that's going to take extra spoons. So I kind of live somewhere in the middle. I take a hybrid approach. If I know that Friday night or Saturday night is going to be big, like a dinner or dancing, all of it, then as much as I can, Wednesday and Thursday, that's automatically for rest. Sweatpants, an early bedtime, books, and absolutely zero guilt. But that's me protecting my future spoons. I also check myself in the moment though. If I'm folding laundry and suddenly my body says absolutely not, and I know I have a big event coming up, then baby, that's a tomorrow problem. And that's with no hesitation. But my golden rule, never give away my last spoon because that one is definitely mine. If I'm down to close to empty, the answer is honestly no. There's no plans. There's no explanations. And guarding those last few spoons is honestly how I keep from crashing. But that's my balance, you know? Enough planning to really protect myself, but also enough flexibility to actually live and enjoy living. And that mini spoon break actually brings me okay, it is time for a quick spoon refill. It is mini spoon break time. And a mini spoon break is just a quick pause in the episode where I give you a little nugget, a fun fact, a poll, or a bit of spoony wisdom. You can think of it like a mid-episode refill. Small scoop, big impact. Did you guys know that the average person with a chronic illness spends over 2 hours a day just managing their symptoms alone? That means that's medication, tracking symptoms, making calls, or even scheduling appointments can add up to about 14 hours a week. That is basically a part-time job. So if you have ever felt like your spoons are disappearing faster than you can count, you are probably not imagining it. Chronic illness literally takes up hours of your life, and protecting your peace and protecting your pour is how you can get some of that time back. Right into the next part, because protecting your peace isn't just about rest or medication. It's also about what you say yes to, who you let in, and how much of your energy you are willing to spend on things that really don't pour back into you. Because in the beginning of my diagnosis, I really felt like I owed people an explanation. Like if I didn't get ahead of what they were already thinking, like what they were going to label me, or if they immediately were going to feel sorry for me, I just kind of wanted to beat them to the punch. I wanted to overshare, over-explain before they had a chance to even make up their own narrative about me. But the problem that lies there is that explaining takes spoons. There was this one time that I went to go see the doctor, and without her even reading my chart, she blurted out to me, "Oh, so you must have HIV." And let me be clear to you guys, it wasn't offensive because of what she assumed I had. It was offensive because she didn't care enough to actually see me. A woman who looked just like me thinking that representation matters, completely dismissed me and didn't care enough to even know my story. And that kind of felt like spoon theft in action. Because not only did I have to tell her no, that wasn't the case, I then had to explain my, at that time, about 16 years of medical history, which took so many spoons. Not to mention having to pick up the medicine at the pharmacy afterwards, and just having to be present and feed yourself because of all the new medication that was then prescribed to you. And honestly, even with my friends, I edit what I share because some of them have listened to the podcast and told me that they had no idea that I was going through all of this. And that is by design, because once again, explaining means coddling sometimes. And you can't do that while you're barely holding on to your own feelings and processing what you have going on. You don't have the spoons for that. And let me drop this little gem here. There's actual research showing that Black women in particular are getting sicker because we are carrying everyone else's feelings, stress, and trauma on top of our own. And for spoonies, that's deadly because stress is a big trigger and every ounce of energy counts. So once again, let me remind you, you cannot pour from an empty spoon, and you shouldn't even tip your spoon. Your job is to fill it, protect it. And when it overflows, then that's when people get access. Not before, absolutely never before. because you just don't owe anyone the last of your spoons. Not doctors, not strangers, not friends, and not family. You come first, period. And how you put yourself first is preparation, y'all. Preparation is always key. If you've seen my TikToks or any of my YouTube shorts, then you already know that I'm big on planning ahead. There was a day recently that I was out in city traffic, everywhere, backed up, and in a spot that I wasn't really familiar with. And if you've ever dealt with disordered eating or ADHD meds or any meds that can kind of suppress the appetite, then you already know that being somewhere unfamiliar without your comfort foods can really shut you down. So when I wanted a sandwich from one of my favorite places, I saw the menu and honestly immediately got overwhelmed. And instead, I got something a little more simple, something I knew that would be easy to chew, easy to digest, and would keep me fed without shutting me down. A very simple, cute acai bowl. And that's what preparation looks like in action, saving your spoons before the meltdown can even start. And mental energy can really drain spoons just as fast as physical energy, and sometimes even faster. Thinking about doing laundry or homework or even running errands can feel so heavy that your brain is like, no, baby, we actually just need to nap. Because when your body's already fighting itself and your mind is out here trying to do some kind of A-list negotiation for a to-do list, that kind of tug of war can wipe you out before you even pretend to lift a finger. And one of the biggest spoon savers I've learned, baby, is boundaries. I'm talking about real ones. Saying no and meaning it. Okay? I use no pretty much everywhere in my life, but especially for my health. Because the truth is, if I push myself too far for a job, I'm not just tired. I could actually end up in the hospital. Somebody else might bounce back with a day off. But baby, for me, that can trigger an entire flare. So, no is no. And protecting my spoons is protecting my peace. So whether it's food, boundaries, or just knowing when to shut your phone off, protecting your pour and protecting your spoons is protecting your peace. That's a lot of peace there, isn't it? It's not selfish. It's really just survival. So when you start moving from that overflow instead of from that last drop, baby girl, you are going to feel so different. All right, my spoon flowers and spoon shines, let's go ahead and land this plane. And you already know the drill. Keep those spoons close, keep your peace closer, and let's slide right into that post roll. And that, my loves, is the scoop for today. If you want to stay connected, please follow me on Instagram at The Spoon Space. You can also subscribe on YouTube at Spoon Space, or send your questions, concerns, and anonymous stories to spoonspaceconnect@gmail.com. Most importantly, though, don't forget to save a scoop for yourself because, as I always say, you can't pour from an empty spoon. I'm Sunny D, RNBSN. Thank you for tuning in to Spoon Space, and we'll see you in the next episode.